16 gang members have put aside their weapons and their differences and united as rappers.
Bangin' on Wax offers the gang members an outlet for their anger.
We're trying to show them that we can come together, make a record, and show positive issues.
Producer Ronnie Phillips says he wanted to give the gang members an opportunity to do something positive.
Because the simple fact the album is so positive, you know, people can't see anything negative, you know. A lot of people get killed on tape, but nobody get hurt.
It's a chance to do something I like to do, which is rap, and make some money at the same time.
We just passed the 32nd anniversary of the release of Bangin' on Wax. 32 years ago, that album changed the game. For good or for bad. It changed the game. We recently interviewed Mike FRANKE, who was an engineer on the project, and he shared his thoughts on the bad side of recording that album, Bangin' on Wax, 32 years ago. So let's discuss it. Here's Mike FRANKE, an engineer on the project.
To this day, we still seeing the impact of that record and what it's done, besides the fact of the high incarceration of young black men who were exposed to other black men who had been in the streets, represent gang sets and things of that nature. You know what I mean?
Off top, he says this album is responsible for a huge rate of incarceration amongst black men. Oh, that's right. We got right into it. Right into the big boy talk, the grown-up talk, the stuff that people don't discuss. They only glorify. And nah, man, we get down to the nitty-gritty. And unfortunately, how amazing that album was, how amazing it was to bring together the blue team and the red team, that was amazing in itself. 32 years later, as a man who's pushing 50, I'm going to say that that album probably did more bad than good. We'll discuss more of that. But here's Mike FRANKE again talking about the bad side of Bangin' on Wax.
I love the record and I love what we attempted to do, but I carry a burden of guilt for the record as well. Even though I only recorded the record or whatever the case may be, I was still a part of it.
That's deep. He said he carries a burden from even being part of that album. And quote, all he did was engineer the project. He wasn't a rapper on the project. He didn't make any beats. He was what they call a knob turner, and I say that respectfully because that's the way he put it.
I love the record and I love what we attempted to do, but I carry a burden of guilt for the record as well. Even though I only recorded the record or whatever the case may be, I was still a part of it.
So let's talk about Bangin' on Wax before we continue. 1993 was a rough time in Los Angeles for everyone, civilians and gangsters alike, especially for gangsters. It was rough out on those streets, man. But every once in a while, a civilian would catch it. Every once in a while, we would walk down the street and there would be 25 Crips just hanging out on the corner, and you have to maneuver your way through as a kid. Then gang injunctions and things like that came in, and that's a thing of the past. Rarely do you see 50 Crips hanging out, unless it's in an Airbnb or something. But there was a time in 93, if I'm not mistaken, it was either 93 or 94, someone looked this up. Los Angeles alone had upwards of 2,000 homicides. Oh, you heard that right. 2,000 homicides in Los Angeles. Not saying those were all gang related. just giving you a perspective of what it was like in 93 in Los Angeles, because I was there. I lived in Los Angeles. I was watching it all from my window on the porch and riding my bike down the street. I wasn't involved in it, but I was right there. 93. Compare that to today. Maybe 400, 500 in Los Angeles a year. Maybe. So 93. So once again, getting the blue team and the red team together in itself, amazing. Unheard of. Wow, this is phenomenal. And they were everywhere. They were everywhere. They were on Donahue. They were on Maury Povich. They had news stories. And the crazy part is, the sad part ultimately, and the truth of the matter is, the news media, they didn't think this thing would last. They were there because they wanted something to crack off so they could have a news story. Once they realized, oh, they're not about that. They're actually about peace. They really backed off and the thing lost steam. But for the first couple of weeks, whenever that thing was being made and it was released, it was everywhere. And then when the news is like, yeah, there's nothing here. They're actually trying to make some peace. Yeah, should we just leave now, huh? All right. We heard this O.J. Simpson thing is kicking up some wing. Yeah, you know what I mean? Done and done. But Banging on Wax started so many gangs all over the country. I've talked to many, many people. I have personal friends who grew up out of state of California, moved to California, told me the reason why the PIRUs exist in North Carolina, for instance, is because of Banging on Wax. Banging on Wax came out. The next day, every block had a new hood. Where the blood, every block had a new hood. And what happens? That just leads to more black folks dying. How many people, and let's keep it real, I love music, I love hip-hop, I love West Coast hip-hop, I love the thought of everything and the people who came together to do this. So what I'm going to say and what I'm saying tonight has nothing to do with any of that, but let's keep it real. How many people probably were bumping PIRU Love on their way to go do a drill on the opposite set? How many people put in Steady Dippin' as they were going to do a drill and take the life of another black man? As adults, can we talk about that now? In our 20s, this is cool, this is awesome, this is great, man, this is amazing. But now, can we talk? Can we talk now in our 40s, 50s, and 60s? Is that cool now? Can we talk? Because I'm ready to talk. Here's Mike Franke talking about the bad side of Banging on Wax.
But what that shit did was impacted a lot of communities across the country. I went to Knoxville, Tennessee, and this is a town of less than 1 million people. At least it was back then. And when I went to Knoxville, Tennessee, I was meeting cats from PIRU. I was meeting cats from Hoover. And I was like, did y'all get put on in the pen? You know, because I was like, well, how y'all get put on? Did you get work? Because, a lot of cats get put on in the pen, But I wasn't meeting cats that got put on in the pen. I was meeting cats that got influenced by that record.
How crazy is that? And this is right around the time still where crack was being peddled and pushed. It was a big thing. People were moving into new territories. So just imagine that the peanut butter and mixture of gangster rap from the early 90s and crack. It blended so perfectly. And I say that because I can't think of a better word. It blended imperfectly. Let's try that. How about that? But this dude said he went to Knoxville, Tennessee, small town Tennessee. And they had gangs. Not from the pen, not from behind the bars, but because of that record. And I know that once again to be fact because I have personal friends who told me the same exact thing. Let's go back to Mike Franke, engineer from the Bangin' on Wax project, talking about the bad about Bangin' on Wax. If you like what you're hearing, hit that like button for me real quick.
We started getting fan mail from all over the globe, dude. We was getting fan mail from Amsterdam and Brussels and England saying, I'm down with the Crips, I'm down with the Bloods. And I'm like, but why? Because we weren't articulate enough or weren't conscious enough to say, this ain't the smartest choice to make in your life. We glorified it.
They glorified Bangin' on that album. From what I understand, they went into it with the thought of, we're going to be a peaceful type of situation. Show the unity. But apparently, and I've heard many people say this, what they intended to do wasn't what the project turned out to be. And they were using terms that disrespect the red team, and the red team was using terms that disrespected the blue team. They had skits with people getting popped and screaming out their sets, and it was glorifying this life. Was that what it was initially intended for? Apparently not. But let's keep going. Mike Franke, engineer from Bangin' on Wax, sharing his thoughts on the bad side of Bangin' on Wax.
At 67 years old, I can look back and say, we shouldn't have done it in that manner. I'm not saying we shouldn't have done it, but I'm saying we should have approached it differently.
Should have approached it a little bit differently, huh? Would it have been as successful if it was a peace album? A true peace album? A true peace album? Because I remember watching the news stories. They were everywhere. And they're still on YouTube. Go check them out. Type in Bangin' on Wax news story, and I'm sure 12 of them will pop up from that time. They were everywhere. The whole country was talking about this. But I remember watching news stories, and they were all together. It was almost like, and I hate to compare it to this because real lives have been lost, but real lives get lost in wrestling also. But it's like watching professional wrestling, and then you see behind the scenes, you see the bad guy and the good guy hanging out, and they're playing cards and sipping whiskey, and you're like, wait, you guys hated each other in the ring. What the heck is going on? But nope. I was watching them on TV, and I was like, wait, they were talking about being total enemies on the songs, but here they are on TV, and they're all together, and they're friends, and it was one of the first mind F moments for me. It was like a mind-blowing moment, like, oh shit, wait, what the is this, Hollywood? Wait, hold on. I was, and keep in mind, I was 13, 14, something like that at that time. But let's keep going with Mike Franke, engineer from Bangin' on Wax, talking about the bad side of Bangin' on Wax.
And I don't want to disrespect the dead. I don't ever want to be perceived like that, right? But Ronnie and I had a lot of conversations about that. I said, bro, you're not in the streets. You don't see the impact that this record is having. Tweet did.
So Ronnie Phillips was the guy who put the project together, one of the main guys who put the project together. So when he says Ronnie didn't understand the streets, he's talking about the guy who put the album together. Now, when he says tweet, he's talking about Tweety Bird Loke. Tweety Bird Loke is Compton legend. I guess that's the best way to say it. Very early, rare gangster rapper from Kelly Park, Compton Crip. And he had a tape, and I had the tape. I bought it at Underworld Records, right on Castlegate and Alondra. Shout out to Big A, who's still doing his thing. Him and I share the same exact first name, Arnold. Big A Arnold, Underworld Records. I bought Tweety Bird Loke's album. Tape, just the tape. And I think it was just the single. It was the one where he was dissing NWA. He had a song where he was dissing Eazy-E. But Tweety Bird Loke, man, he was on his way to becoming a legend back then. But for whatever reason, he just didn't reached the success that I felt he should have reached. And he passed away just maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, if my memory serves me correct. But just recently, within the past 5 or 6 years, but him and I were in talks, and that's why I know it was about that time, because him and I were in talks about him coming on my show and being on it and doing an episode. And then, yeah, just it never came to fruition, unfortunately, and Tweety Bird Loke passed. But so when he's saying Ronnie Phillips in the story and he's talking Tweety Bird Loke, RIP, that's who he is talking about. So let's go back to Mike Franke, engineer from Bangin' on Wax.
And I don't want to disrespect the dead. I don't ever want to be perceived like that, right? But Ronnie and I had a lot of conversations about that. I said, bro, you're not in the streets. You don't see the impact that this record is having. Tweet did, though. And Tweet came to me and he's like, man, we should have listened to you. I said, I tried to tell you niggas you didn't know what you were getting into when you did that, and then, disrespect to my man Ronnie Phillips, but he wanted to be in the lap of the white boys. He was like, yo, man, I got Rush Regan, he gonna do this and do that. And guess what? Ain't nobody from that record or their descendants spend a dime of that money. That's it. That record sent their kids to college.
Woo! Euphoria. He said that album didn't send nobody that produced, made, engineered, worked on, ain't send damn penny to any of them going to their kids' college degree. He said that sent the white folks, kids to college. Damn, let's think about that for a second. Holy shit. Because selling 500,000 copies back then, somebody's making some money. Now, I don't know how streams work and who gets paid. It's a little bit different now. But back then, physical copies, and you went and you paid $15.99 for that CD, someone was getting paid, usually the higher-ups. And those higher-ups who they were just talking about were the ones that made all the money. All the money. While the ones who worked on the project made literally zero. When I say zero, I mean zero. The janitors who cleaned the studio at night probably made more money off of that project than the people who worked on that project. That is a damn shame. And one thing I'm proud of with my YouTube podcast journey is that I don't believe there is another channel on YouTube that has documented Bangin' on Wax more than I have. I've interviewed several players. Sin Loke, the guy with the Freddy Krueger mask, that has 1.3 million views right now. I've interviewed Lil Leak from PIRU Love. I've interviewed Lil Hawk, fresh out of 27 years of prison. Lil Hawk from Damu Riders, right here on my channel. I've covered this project indefinitely because I want to give them the props and respect that will hopefully, maybe somehow lead to them getting paid off of something, getting some money. I don't know, because it really sucks that they didn't get paid off of that project. And they were the ones putting their lives on the line. Could you imagine what a lot of their sets thought about that and hoods? And not only that, this album brought legit beef with other sets because they were naming sets and dropping some disrespectful stuff. And all the while, the only person who benefited off of that was some white dude, man. The game is cold. We also were joined by Lil Leak from PIRU Love. There were a few different versions of PIRU Love, and Lil Leak was on one of the versions. And if I'm not mistaken, in the PIRU Love video, he's the first guy you see on the screen. Like within the first few seconds, you see Lil Leak on the screen. His brother is the one and only Red Rum 781, RIP. Great dude. Red Rum, who was responsible by all accounts, as well for pretty much bringing the Bloods together on Bangin' on Wax. So Tweety Bird brought the blue team together, and apparently Red Rum was responsible for getting the majority of the red team together. So Lil Leak was on our show recently, and he too, as did Mike Frankie recently, the engineer for Bangin' on Wax, he too did share his thoughts on the bad side of Bangin' on Wax, and specifically about the fact that it did spread or help spread Crips and Bloods all over the world.
Well, in my younger days, in my youth, you know, I was proud of it, and I was happy. I thought it was a good thing, you know what I'm saying? But as I got older and I realized what the impact that it did make and the negativity it brought, and people would come to me telling me, you know, how they would be in the hood and doing certain things. You know, I was in the hood too. I was still active in the streets, but at the same time, I had a conscience, and I didn't want people to believe that that's the way to go. And you know, even though we was glorifying it, it was just that we were so young, and that's what we was into, and that's the life we lived. You know, so we just thought that was what we wanted to talk about. So that's pretty much how that went. So I'm not happy about it, and I don't glorify it. I don't appreciate. I mean, not appreciate, but I don't think that it was a good thing. I think it really did more harm than good, because you know, us black folks, we got to stick together, and that was something that just divided us even more.
That's deep. That's deep, especially that last part did more harm than good. And that sucks, because a lot of them did not get paid. They couldn't invest. They couldn't prosper off of literally putting their lives on the line to record this project. So way more bad on that side as well. And also what I believe he was referring to, if he wasn't referring to it, I'm going to double up and give my opinion on that. The fact that it spread C's and B's all over the country, and a lot of us lost our lives over that. A lot of our people, man. How many people, before they were about to go on a drill and bust on their ops, how many people put PIRU Love in their tape deck? How many people, before they went on a drill to go bust on the ops, put Steady Dippin' in their tape decks? It's just the reality of it. Good, bad, or indifferent, this album changed the world. Personally, it's one of my favorite albums. A lot of really good artists came out of this. A couple of them had some decent careers. Unfortunately, most of them didn't really. But the good thing is, a lot of them are still around. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of them are still around. A lot of them seem to be doing well. I just wish they could have gotten compensated properly for releasing this dope project. And it was a dope project. Now, I can't believe it's been 32 years since it's been released, man. God. Life is moving way too fast for my liking. I'm ready for it to slow down a little bit. Just a little. Can you slow down just a little bit? Can I get a pause button or something? Damn. I've seen like 32 years ago, because I remember that album being released. First of all, I remember it being on the box every 15 minutes, and I'm not exaggerating. It was E40, and it was Bone Thugs and Harmony, man. There was a time where those are the only 3 videos you saw in the box. The box, for anyone who doesn't know, it was a pay service where you paid, 99 cents, and they play your video for you. But I remember seeing PIRU Love. When I say I probably watched that video 150 times, I'm not even exaggerating. I remember steady dipping. My best friend to this day lived in Compton on Castlegate, right down the street from where they filmed Steady Dipping. And I was of age that time, and I would have loved to go to the park, but my best friend's dad was not having that one bit. But I remember all that time. I was alive. And now just to think it's been 32 years since its release. Crazy times, man. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I hope you're enjoying life because this shit moves fast. Sounds like the ghetto bird is flying over my house, so I think that is time for me to get the heck out of here. Please hit that like button if you haven't already, and if this is your first time joining the channel and you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button.
Bangin' on Wax offers the gang members an outlet for their anger. News' Amy Powell has the story.
They are members of two of LA's most notorious gangs. Red is the color identified with the Bloods. The Crips wear blue. 16 gang members have put aside their weapons and their differences and united as rappers.
Getting Bloods and Crips in the room and they don't know what's going on is hard until you sit down and talk to them like men and they can understand what it's all about. And I think the whole thing was respect. I think if you give respect, they'll give you respect.
We're trying to show them that we can come together, make a record, and show positive issues, and at the same time prove that we have talents other than just pulling triggers and doing whatever, selling drugs.
Producer Ronnie Phillips says he wanted to give the gang members an opportunity to do something positive.
I mean, I don't look at them as being Bloods or Crips. I look at them as being my brother. Once we understood that, we started a relationship. And once you start a relationship, then you can work together. Then you become business partners. Then you can grow, become producers, actors, whatever. Because there's a lot of talent in the streets and people overlook that.
When this project started, some of these gang members didn't even want to be in the same room together. Now they've formed lasting relationships. Bangin' on Wax will be released next week. From Los Angeles, I'm Amy Powell for E! News Week in Review.
Francesca Capucci reports he's brought together two long-standing enemies in hopes of redirecting their anger without violence.
Bangin' on Wax was the vision of producer Ronnie Phillips.
My whole philosophy was to stop the brothers from killing each other, because right now there is no way out. Only way out is either give them better jobs, which that's not happening. Nobody's working at Mickey D's nowadays, because these guys make more money than I do in a week just on the street. So my thing was to come up with a record. These guys can make some money and can better their lives.
Phillips gathered gang members from different parts of Los Angeles. His goal, to reach the kids.
The ones I'm really worried about is the BJs, the baby gangsters. And once they realize, hey man, instead of me picking up my 9 to shoot you, I'd rather pick up an 8-pen and write a diss rhyme. You know, that's basically what it's all about.
The raps are hard and violent, but the Bloods told me rapping is a safer way to seek revenge. Keep those lines of communication open. Bangin' on Wax will be an ongoing project. Ronnie Phillips plans on producing an additional 3 albums with different gang members from different areas. Both gangs say they will invest the money they make from Bangin' on Wax into their community.
Look at that, this is much love. Right here. You know what I'm saying? This history being made here, you know what I'm saying?
Bangin' on Wax is an album containing the redirected energies of members of the Bloods and the Crips, two violent rival Los Angeles gangs. The idea was to have the gang members deal with their differences verbally instead of physically and create some honest income at the same time.
A portion of the profits from the Bangin' on Wax album will be used to help build recreational facilities in Los Angeles.
Dominant gangs in Los Angeles. And since that time, some members of both gangs have looked for new ways to redirect their energy. And as Mary Major Jack shows us, they're turning their frustrations into money.
Give these guys something to do. Instead of picking up a 9mm to go shoot somebody, they can pick up an 8-pen and write a diss rhyme, since rap is so powerful.
Be around Crips other than when it's time for animosity, you know what I'm saying? But as we progress, you know what I'm saying, during the album, and, you know, looked at it as a business type issue other than, you know, a gang banging the situation. You know what I'm saying? Things kind of change.
It's always trying to reach the kids. Let them know younger youth. You know, so try to keep them, you know, going out there and doing some of the things we did, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, just some help, you know what I'm saying? And I'm all with it.
Can you ever imagine a day where you're just all going to be friends and you're not going to be Bloods and Crips?
Later on down the line, we will put these away, you know what I'm saying, and be able to kick it amongst one another without having to say, damn, that's a Blood, or I'm a Crip, you know what I'm saying? We can just kick it as homeboys, you know what I'm saying?
It's going to be black.
Loved ones, yeah, it's going to be a black thing.
You wasted it.
For Screen Scene, I'm Mary Major Jack.
The Bloods and the Crips debuted their first video from the album Bangin' on Wax at the Troubadour in West Hollywood. It's a project designed to make a difference.
They're able to get their frustrations out on a record. And take for instance, we shot the video shoot. I had over 220 different Bloods and Crips from all over. I mean, I didn't know half the guys, but they came there, no violence. I mean, it was a little confrontations, but when everybody understood, hey man, we're here to make records. We're not here to fight and kill each other. We're here to make records. It was cool. I'm getting letters from teachers all across the country. They're playing it in schools. I'm getting letters from kids calling me, sending me letters. They want to. I mean, it's been great.
These gang members feel positive momentum building.
Because the simple fact the album is so positive, you know, people can't see anything negative, you know. A lot of people get killed on tape, but nobody get hurt.
Whenever black people get together doing something, you know what I'm saying, together, it's a positive thing, you know what I'm saying, whether it may be sports, rap, or whatever it may be.
And some have decided to discard their masks.
We're taking the flags off our face, you know what I'm saying, so people can see us, you know what I'm saying, and understand some of the things we're trying to do, you know what I'm saying. It's not glorifying gangs, you know what I'm saying, but that's what we are.
Bangin' on Wax will be an ongoing project involving many more Bloods and Crips from different parts of the city, demonstrating there is a lot of raw talent on the street. Francesca Capucci, Channel 7 Eyewitness News in West Hollywood.
Have come together. It's often been with deadly results. But now these bitter rivals are uniting for a common cause called Bangin' on Wax. CNN's Gloria Hillard reports.
On turf staked out by scrawls on the walls, there's a confrontation. Members of Los Angeles' most notorious gangs, the Bloods and the Crips, meet for the cameras. On the mean streets home to gang banging, they've turned bullets into a war of words, a rap record recorded by 16 members of the two rival gangs.
Here's a chance to do something I like to do, which is rap, and make some money at the same time, and then it'll keep me out of jail, you know what I'm saying?
They were brought together by record producer Ronnie Phillips.
We're going to make a record. We got to come together. It's still unity, man. It's about black power, man. We can't be fighting and shooting each other. I mean, you guys have an opportunity now to become somebody.